styling themselves Blood Royals, Lord of the Stoneway, Masters of the Green Hills and High Kings of Dorne, the Lords of House Yronwood, in time ruled northern Dorne from the mountain domains of House Will to the headwaters of the Greenblood, though their efforts to bend the other Dornish kings to their will were seldom successful. The writings of Yandel, The World of Ice and Fire, Dorne, Kingdoms of the First Men. While the other kingdoms of Westeros do tend to have several ancient houses that claim their descent from the earliest of the First Men into the Dawn Age of Westeros, Dorne does seem to have a high concentration of them. Some have put forward that the harsh climate of Dorne meant only the best and toughest of these houses survived long enough to carve out lands and later petty kingdoms of their own. House Yronwood of Yronwood is a perfect example of this, and so you can make an argument that the ancient Yronwood High Kings of Dorne were among the most powerful of the petty kings before Dorne was united as one by Prince Mors Martell and Nymeria after the arrival of the Rhoynar. The seat of House Yronwood is the last fortress defending the Boneway, one of the few passes through the Red Mountains. Thus, this is reflected in their title of Warden of the Boneway. Despite no longer being kings, the current head of House Yronwood still uses the title Blood Royal. Their house words are, "We guard the way," and their banner depicts a black portcullis grille over sand, a very fitting motto and banner given the history of the house. The men and women of House Yronwood are considered to be stony Dornish, who tend to have fairer hair and eyes than that of their Dornish kin. However, there are several exceptions to this rule, with plenty of Yronwoods known to have possessed more traditional Dornish features. The Yronwoods established their seat, the formidable stronghold known as Yronwood, in a strategic position in the foothills of the Red Mountains. The land protected by the castle is fertile and forested, with deep iron, tin and silver ores. Yronwood has clean and sweet mountain air, and the high meadows north of the castle have crisp air and cool nights. It's one of the most hospitable places to live in Dorne. The stony Dornish have the most in common with those north of the mountains, and are the least touched by the Rhoynish custom. This has not made them close allies with the Marcher Lords, or the Lords of the Reach, however. On the contrary, it's been said that the Mountain Lords have a history as savage as the mountain clans of the Vale, having for thousands of years warred with the Reach and the Stormlands, as well as with each other. The writings of Yandel, The World of Ice and Fire, Dorne, Kingdoms of the First Men. The Yronwoods are considered among the most ancient of the noble houses of First Men descent. The strategic location of their seat granted them control over one of the two major passes that leads into Dorne. The importance and wealth of this territory enabled the Yronwoods to claim dominion over much of northern Dorne as a result, growing larger and faster than most of the other First Men. At the height of their power, prior to the unification of Dorne, House Yronwood controlled lands that extended from Will, the mountain fortress of House Will, to the source of the Greenblood River, the very lifeblood of Dorne itself. On occasion, their lands even encompassed as far as the Sandship, the seat of House Martell prior to the Rhoynish migration, and its conversion to their more well-known seat of Sunspear. Despite their wealth and influence, the Yronwoods, while the biggest of the Dornish kingdoms, were unable to unite Dorne as one, as they could not overcome the other powerful Dornish dynasties, the Kings of Stone and the Kings of Sky, from House Fowler, and the Kings of the Torrentine, from House Dane. Given their size, House Yronwood are often called High Kings of Dorne by maesters and men of history, a title House Yronwood did proudly claim. But their claim to the title of High King was contested by other noble families in the region, particularly those dwelling near Lemonwood. The location of Yronwood in the southern reaches of the Red Mountains means they are considered among the Border Lords, who often fought and warred with the Storm Lords in the Dornish marches to the north and the Storm Kings of House Durrandon. The battle by the Bloody Pool was famously fought between King Yoren Yronwood and King Durran the Young, the then Storm King. While details of this battle are lost, we do know that King Yoren was pushed back into the Red Mountains after a long and bloody battle. King Oliver Yronwood was also known for leading multiple raiding parties into the Dornish marches over the course of the reign of King Eric VI Durrandon. By the time the Rhoynish arrived in Dorne, under the leadership of Princess Nymeria and her legendary fleet of 10,000 ships, the kings of House Yronwood held dominion over roughly half of Dorne. However, the balance of power shifted dramatically when Nymeria married Lord Martell, the ruling lord of the Sand Ship. At the time, House Martell were counted among the smaller houses of Dorne. This union significantly bolstered House Martell's military strength, increasing their forces tenfold. Following this alliance, Nymeria proclaimed Mors as the Prince of Dorne, a title that asserted their authority over the entire region, and declared their intention to rule all of Dorne under House Martell. At the time, King Yorick V Yronwood was the Lord of Yronwood and the last king of House Yronwood. The Martells met and subdued all the other petty kings of Dorne until only Yorick V remained. For 9 more years, the Yronwoods warred against the Martells and their supporters. Yorick's own bannermen included the likes of House Jourdain and the Wilds, as well as the Blackmonts and the Corgylls. In the Third Battle of the Boneway, Yorick V himself slew Prince Mors Martell, with Princess Nymeria assuming command of the Martell armies in her late husband's place. 2 years of bloody battle followed, though ultimately Yorick V was forced to submit and bend the knee to Nymeria, and the Yronwoods became bannermen of House Martell, along with the other fallen Dornish kings. After his defeat, Yorick was sent to the Wall to join the Night's Watch, where he lived out his days. Some will call this mercy from Nymeria, or others a shaming punishment for a once proud king. During Aegon's conquest, specifically the First Dornish War, King Aegon the Conqueror led a brief siege of Yronwood, but like most of the castles in Dorne during the First Dornish War, Yronwood was defended by boys, old men and women, as the fighting men had fled. According to the strategies of Princess Mira Martell, Yronwood was quickly recaptured by Dornishmen after Aegon returned to King's Landing, a matter of weeks after he declared victory. In 130 AC, during the Targaryen civil war known as the Dance of the Dragons, Sir Giles Yronwood, who had been exiled from Dorne, was in the service of Rhaenyra Targaryen, one of the claimants to the Iron Throne. Late into the war, during the storming of the Dragon Pit, Sir Giles was one of the 7 men sent by Queen Rhaenyra to recover her son, Joffrey Velaryon, as he tried to save his dragon from the Dragon Pit. Joffrey was killed after falling off his mother's dragon, Syrax, with a mob tearing his body apart. While trying to recover the boy's remains, Giles was one of the 3 rescuers who was killed in the riot, being pulled from his horse and bludgeoned to death. The Yronwoods joined the Seven Kingdoms in 187 AC, when Prince Maron Martell submitted to King Daeron II Targaryen and the Iron Throne through the marriage of Maron to Daeron's sister, Daenerys. But later, the Yronwoods joined Sir Aegor Rivers against the Targaryens and the Martells in 3 of the 5 Blackfyre rebellions. In the years prior to Robert's rebellion, around 147 AC, a 16-year-old Oberyn Martell, the younger brother of the Prince of Dorne, Oberyn Martell, was found abed with old Lord Edgar Ironwood's paramours. Although the ensuing duel was only to first blood, both men took wounds. But Lord Edgar's wound festered, and he died shortly after, which is the origin of the rumour that Oberyn Martell had poisoned his blade, earning him the nickname the Red Viper. Oberyn fled to the Free Cities in exile after Lord Edgar's death. To repay a blood debt, Oberyn Martell later sent his second child, Quentyn, to foster with Edgar's grandson, Lord Anders Yronwood. Quentyn served at Yronwood as a page and a squire, and he chose to be knighted by Anders instead of his uncle Oberyn. Quentyn was smitten with Yennefer Yronwood, but the girl instead married Sir Ryan Alaron. Her younger sister Gwyneth is herself interested in Quentyn. She's described 12 years old, small, scrawny, with dark eyes and brown hair, which sets her apart from much of her house, who would typically have blue eyes and fairer hair. She's clever and quick with her words and her hands. I want to go back to Yronwood and kiss both of your sisters. Marry Gwyneth Yronwood. Watch her flower into a beauty. Have a child by her. I want to ride in tourneys, hawk and hunt, and visit my mother in Norvos. Read some of those books my father sends me. I want Cletus and Will and Maester Kedri to be alive. The Thoughts of Quentyn Martell. A Dance with Dragons Chapter 68. The Dragon Tamer. During the events of A Feast for Crows, Princess Archibald Martell fears that the Yronwoods will declare for her younger brother Quentyn instead of herself as heir of their father, Dorne, Prince of Dorne. Given the relationship between her younger brother and House Yronwood, Arianne is in fact mistaken, however, as Dorne has a very different plan for Quentyn, sending him to Essos, to Slavers Bay, to propose a marriage between Quentyn and Daenerys Targaryen. There are subsequently sightings of Quentyn and Lord Yronwood's son Cletus at Plankytown. Despite his lazy eye, Cletus Yronwood is considered handsome and always laughing, counted among Quentyn's closest friends. Because Princess Myrcella Baratheon was wounded and Sir Aerys Oakheart killed during Arianne's failed plot to crown Myrcella as queen, Dorne has Anders Yronwood delay Sir Balon Sworn of the Kingsguard at Yronwood by feasting him for a fortnight before he once again leaves for Sunspear, buying Dorne vital time. During a dance with dragons, Sir Cletus Yronwood is joined by his cousin Sir Archibald Yronwood, accompanying Quentyn Martell in his mission to find and marry Daenerys Targaryen in Essos. Archibald is said to be 6.5 feet tall, broad of shoulder, with a huge belly. He has legs like tree trunks, hands the size of a ham's, and a no neck. He wields a spiked hammer and a dagger, wearing fine gleaming armour. He is said to be a better fighter than Quentyn or Jaehaerys Drinkwater. The Dornishmen were knights, at least in name, though only Archibald Yronwood impressed him as having true steel. Drinkwater had a pretty face, a glib tongue, and fine head of hair, the thoughts of Barristan Selmy, and Archibald Yronwood, A Dance with Dragons Chapter 70, The Queen's Hand. The party's ship, Meadowlark, is ambushed by corsairs off the coast of the disputed lands, where Cletus, Maester Kedry, and Willem Wells are slain. While staying in Volantis, the group struggle to secure passage to Slavers Bay and Marine, as no shipmaster is willing to take them. Archibald proposes trying by way of the Demon Road, but the suggestion is ultimately set aside in favour of Jaehaerys Drinkwater's plan to enlist with the sellsword company, the Windblown, who were heading towards Marine. To conceal their true identity, Archibald adopts the alias Green Guts, and Quentyn assumes the role of his squire, calling himself Frog. In order to better blend in, the trio sells their high-quality armour in Volantis and replaces it with worn gear from the Windblown's own supplies. Later, as Quentyn, Jaehaerys, and Archibald discuss the possibility of deserting the company following the siege of Astapor, they are unexpectedly summoned by the Tattered Prince, the leader of the sellsword company. The captain assigns them to a group of Westerosi merchants who are to feign defection from the Windblown in hopes of joining Daenerys Targaryen. Upon arriving in Marine, the Dornishmen present themselves to Queen Daenerys Targaryen, where Prince Quentyn reveals the true purpose of his long journey. However, Daenerys turns down his proposal of marriage, citing her upcoming union with Haestar Zolorak, though she urges the Dornishmen to return home to Dorne. They choose to remain in the city, unwilling to abandon their mission. Following Daenerys' disappearance, Quentyn hatches a foolish and desperate plan to claim one of her dragons, and though hesitant, Archibald and Jaehaerys agree to help him. Disguised as one of the brazen beasts, Archibald dons a bull-shaped mask and uses his warhammer to smash the lock deep within the Great Pyramid of Marine, where the dragons were being kept. The attempt ends in the expected certain tragedy. When Quentyn approaches Rhaegal, the dragon unleashes a deadly blast of flame, mortally wounding him. Archibald tries to extinguish the fire with his bare hands, but to no avail. When the brazen beasts arrive, they find Archibald holding Quentyn's burned and charred body. Overcome with grief, Archibald and Jaehaerys offer no resistance and are taken into custody. Later, Sir Barristan Selmy, acting as Hand of the Queen, visits the two imprisoned Dornishmen. He informs them that they are to be executed for treason. Jaehaerys, bitter and distraught, places the blame on Daenerys, but Archibald calms him. The larger man recounts the events in the pyramid and reveals that Quentyn had promised the city of Pentos to the Tattered Prince in exchange for the Windblown's help with the dragon plot. Hearing this, Barristan senses a chance to turn the situation to their advantage. He offers the prisoners a ship back to Dorne and Quentyn's remains, on one condition, that they deliver a message directly to the Tattered Prince. Barristan wants the Windblown to assist in freeing the Myronese hostages held by the Yunkai, promising them Pentos as a reward, though Jaehaerys protests, pointing out that Archibald's burned hands can no longer wield a sword. Archibald accepts the mission without any hesitation. With quiet resolve, he persuades Jaehaerys to join him.